Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. This is my follow-up video to the research I put out on March 22nd, 2016, exposing how the Brussels, Belgium terror attack was the latest hoax by the numbers by our Masonic, Zionist, media, and world government, put on for the purpose of instilling the message of fear Islam, fear the Islamic boogeyman, a message that benefits the Zionists and Masons, the bankers, the tyrants who benefit from this organized chaos, the fear mongering, and the dollars that will eventually be spent on war. If you missed my first video, it's linked down in the description. You want to check out that video first. This is additional research. Since making that video, they've given us names of the supposed attackers, the supposed victims. They've adjusted the numbers on the death count. I want to expose all this and more in the video. Please stay tuned until the end. I'm saving some very important information for the end. There's a direct connection to the date March 22nd and also the last major terror hoax in Belgium, which was December 13th, 2011, blamed on a 33-year-old Islamic extremist. So let's go back and review some facts from the attack, March 22nd. If you missed that video, the date of the attack stood out because March 22nd is written as 22/3, day before the month in most parts of the world, including Belgium. This number sequence, 223, is very important to the Freemasons and the Zionists, who are the ones who put on these hoaxes by the numbers for the sake of blaming radical Islam, when that is not who is responsible. Masonic in Jewish gematria equals 223. In the Bible, in Revelation, the final book, it says the false Jews will rule in the end times. And just so you know, I'm not a Christian. I'm not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person. I just seek knowledge and understanding. And this language of gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words, it applies to the major spiritualities of the world: Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, and more. By applying this language of gematria, you can find a lot of hidden meaning in these spiritual texts. But where I have derived the most meaning, and also where I have studied the most, is the book of Revelation. It seems that it is used as the playbook by the Masons and the Zionists for so much of their wrongdoing. Anyhow, in the final book of the Bible, Revelation, it says the false Jews will rule in the end times, and they are referred to as the synagogue of Satan, which has gematria of 223. The false Jews are the Zionist Jews in this world. In the Torah, it says the Jews are not to have a state of their own. That means Israel goes against the Torah, and Orthodox Jews, some of them, in a very small minority, speak out against the Zionist state of Israel. If you're not aware, the First World War, the United States of America became involved in the war after Rothschild family, the Zionist banking giants, wrote to the U.S. government that if they fought in the war on behalf of the UK and its allies, they would be delivered the Zionist state of Israel. The United States then joined World War I and fought for the UK and its allies. At the beginning of the war, the first 2 years where the United States didn't participate, they supported Germany, the opposition. But once the promise was made of the Zionist state, the United States became involved. Of course, Israel was not delivered after World War I, but it was after World War II. I live in the United States. I can't speak for European education, but here in the United States, they don't teach us diddly squat about World War I. It's like a secret. It's like a big mystery. It's left out of the history books. All they teach us about is World War II and how evil Hitler was. And they teach us to have all this sympathy for the Jews while looking over all the other people who've had genocides and wrongdoing against them throughout this world, including the Native Americans, which we wiped out to start this nation. I don't say this because I hate a group of people. I say what I say because I speak truth. There's a reason we're taught to have Jew sympathy, but sympathy for no one else, and at the same time taught to hate so many other groups. The New World Order is a Masonic Zionist Jew world order. And the Zionists, they truly don't even respect the Jews themselves. They use everybody as pawns on the chessboard, essentially, in their grand scheme. So all that aside, these numbers are of great significance. 223. The attack on March 22nd came exactly 223 weeks to the day after the December 13th, 2011 attack. As I have been talking about for 3 years on my written blog and this video channel, these Masons and Zionists, they operate by this numerological code. It is of great significance to them. They've been doing this all throughout history. Yesterday was Good Friday. In history, Abraham Lincoln was shot on Good Friday, exactly 223 weeks after he survived an assassination attempt on his life at the Willard Hotel. Lincoln was also born in a town with 223 gematria, and he wasn't honest, even though his nickname's Honest Abe. He was a Masonic Zionist agent of his times, helping fulfill the agenda of his time, which was establishing a central bank. And all of this propaganda, all of this fear-mongering, it comes back to banking, money. Again and again, war is big business. War is big money. War is control over people. Also, as many of you know, the number 322 is connected to the Masonic Order Skull and Bones. Most people know about this order through the fraternity at Yale, which presidents, CEOs, members of governments have been a part of. We're going to talk more about Skull and Bones. I just want you to know that the date of the attack, March 22nd, 2016, had 41 numerology. 41, the 13th prime number, very special number. Skull and Bones in gematria equals 41. In case you missed my first post, Daily Mail put out this video right away, a 2-minute, 23-second video of the attack showing the smoke through the airport. It looked like a very staged scene. People have documented how in this video there's a crisis actor carrying a plastic baby, a doll, signs of the simulation that was, reported as real terror when it was nothing more than a government media police drill. They said 14 died in the first blast. 14 has gematria of 41. We just talked about 41. The station that was bombed, Melbeek Metro Station, has gematria of 223 and 79 the small way. We talked about what 223 means. 79, the word murder equals 79. The small way, the word murder equals 34. The initial reporting was that 34 people were killed. They dropped that to 31 people plus 2 bombers for a total of 33. We'll talk more about 33. This bombing supposedly happened, blow this up for you so you can see this, 79 minutes after the first attack, which occurred at the airport. The first attack was at the airport. The airport has gematria of 130. This attack came 130 days after the November 13th Paris attack hoax, also blamed on ISIS for the exact same reasons. And in that attack, they said 130 people died. Then the next attack, 130 days later in Brussels, which has been directly connected to the Paris terror hoax ever since. They shut down the city in the days after, saying there was a major threat there. They said a lot of the attackers came from there. This has been constant programming, constant foreshadowing. So then they revealed to us that the attackers are supposedly brothers, giving us instant deja vu of the Boston Marathon bombing, which was also propaganda against Islamic extremism. It was brothers blamed for the Boston Marathon bombing, brothers now blamed for the Belgium bombing hoax. And the first headline CNN put out was "Bombers Were Brothers," which has gematria of 113, 113, a very special number to Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Scottish equals 113. Scottish Rite Freemasonry came to power in France. Remember, the superstition about Friday the 13th comes out of Paris, France, in the year 1307, King Philip burned the Knights Templar at the stake. They were Freemasons. The original superstition of Friday the 13th connected to Freemasonry, connected to France. These hoaxes put on by the powers that be are always by the numbers, and they're often tributes to history. Other words with 113 gematria besides Scottish are mainstream. This propaganda is carried out in the mainstream media, which is run by Masons and Zionists. Think about how the word dishonest equals 113, perjury, which has to do with being dishonest in court, 113, green screen, which is used so often in this propaganda, 113. And in the Jewish holy text, Baba Kama 113a says Jews may use lies to circumvent Gentiles, which are non-Jews. Think about the Zionist-controlled media. Think about it being used as a weapon of disinformation and propaganda to lie to the masses, Jewish and non. In case you've never seen my work on the Boston Marathon bombing, there was a lot of predictive programming for that attack. I just want to revisit some familiar numbers, numbers of significance, numbers you want to understand. In Pythagorean gematria, Boston Marathon bombing sums to 93. So does the word propaganda. This number also has a connection to the nation, United States of America, a number that largely runs on propaganda, and it also has a connection to this attack, which is propaganda itself. In the first video I did, which is linked down below in the description, I also talked about how 93 connected to this most recent attack. Again, it was blamed on brothers, the Tsarnaev brothers. The older one was supposedly killed. If you followed that story at the time, it was first reported that he was arrested and detained. Then later the story changed to he was killed in a shootout, which was very confusing for those of us who were trying to figure out what was going on. At the time of the Boston Marathon bombing, when it first occurred, I was not well versed in this language of gematria. I wasn't able to see all that I can see now. Anyhow, with all of these attacks and the quickening that they've come upon us, I've studied more and more, and I've made more and more discoveries. The younger Tsarnaev brother who went on trial, who became the poster boy for the attack after his older brother was supposedly killed, there was a lot of signatures in these numbers that were coded into his birthday and name. The date he was born, July 22nd, 1993, a date with 33 numerology. The date July 22nd is also interesting, day before the month 22/7. Emphasis on the 22nd day again, just like March 22nd. In numerology, 22 is the master builder number. In gematria, the word master equals 22. Very special number. Anyhow, this date has 33 numerology. Also, if you divide 22 by 7, it gives you the number for pi, 3.14, having to do with cycles and circles. If you can believe it, in gematria, if you write this out as words, 22 divided by 7, all as words, no numbers, it sums to 314, a lot like 3.14, the number 4 pi. There's a channel called Marty Liege. He does something called vortex math, which is related. He has arrived at the same theory as me, that our English language is based on this numerical system, and pi is very much at the center of it. I have a lot of work on pi. There's a whole lot more to the story. I just want you to understand, the numbers in the language are not coincidence. It's based on this ancient mathematics, these significant numbers, and these same numbers get coded again and again. We talked about Lincoln. Lincoln died at 7:22 in the morning. This number 722, 22-7, shows up in terrorism, in hoaxes, deaths of presidents, so much more. Numbers of great significance. The name Dozakar Tsarnaev has gematria of 74, like Masonic. Very special numbers, routine numbers. His older brother, born October 21st, 1986, a date with 28 numerology. The numbers 28 and 33, his younger brother's birth numerology. numbers that often get paired together. When you write out 28 as a word, when you write out 33 as a word, they both sum to 156. The number 911 is the 156th prime number. Special numbers. Think about 911, September 11th. The firm that built the World Trade Centers has gematria of 156. 911's the 156th prime number. The buildings came down on 911. They were built in 68, meaning they existed for 33 years. They opened in 73, meaning they were open for 28 years, 28 and 33. Please see my videos on 9/11. The more you understand of this work, the more you see how these patterns persist, how the world is planned out by the numbers, and the propaganda is also executed by the numbers. All right, so back to the more recent brothers, calling them the Bomber Brothers in Brussels. Lots coded into these two, very familiar numbers. They said Ibrahim and Khalid were the names of the brothers. One bombed the airport, the other supposedly bombed the metro station. Ibrahim has gematria 42, just like the word brothers, just like the word Freemason. It's the Freemasons and Zionists who are hoaxing us by the numbers. Their last name, Bakraoui, has gematria of 33. Since day one, I have explained that the number 33 is always coded heavily and is central in all of this propaganda. 33 is a number of fixation by the Freemasons and the Zionists. In simple English gematria, Ibrahim el Bakraoui sums to 155. This is also a number that CNN and other mainstream outlets have been coding a lot into their headlines about the attack. Christianity has gematria of 155. It's also a number with 11 numerology. The reason they might be coding this for Christianity is because they very much want to build religious division. And so much of the post-9/11 agenda is to pit Christians against Islam. These stories have a major impact on that. The other brother, named Khalid el Bakraoui, again the 33 last name, his name in gematria sums to 68, a number very much associated with death. In 1968, that's the year 911 was made, the National Emergency Dialing Code. That's the year World Trade Center construction began. That's the year George W. Bush graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones. 33 years later, he would become the president. 77, one of these multiples of 11, another number very important to Washington, D.C. Both the Paris attack and the Brussels attack, the numbers coded within, point back to Washington, D.C. and New York, targets that were hit on 9/11. Don't kid yourself, it could very much happen again. These people are very repetitive, from the locations they bomb, such as airports and train stations, bus stations, to the locations. So it's entirely within the realm of possibility we will be living deja vu here in the United States in the near future in New York and D.C. You have to remember, Masonry, Zionism is international. These nations work together. They propagandize their people by the numbers together. Bakraoui Brothers, as they're called, has gematria of 75 and 84. New World Order equals 75. United States of America equals 84. The reporting says 31 people killed plus the two Bakraoui brothers. That's a total of 33 people. With regards to 33 and people, look at this. People equals 33. Person equals 33. Goyim equals 33, a word for non-Jews. Society equals 33. Order equals 33. You think that's all a coincidence? I'm telling you, these people built our language. This is supposed to be the picture of the brothers. Their resemblance reminds us of the Tsarnaev brothers from the Boston Marathon bombing. The younger brother had the longer, shaggier hair. The older brother, a shorter haircut. Not a coincidence. All part of the programming. They also put out a wanted picture for this man for much of the day. Supposedly he's still at large. A lot of us laughed because the image is just so unclear. I mean, it almost looks like he's wearing a mask. People on my blog joked and said he looked like Shock G from Digital Underground. Another person said he reminded him of Jamiroquai. You might remember that song from the 90s. It's a crazy world we're living in, virtual insanity. Good song. But it's just all part of a joke. I mean, these grainy images. Let's just go back up and look at this. I mean, it's 2016, high-def cameras, and they keep giving us these grainy images. All of the attacks blamed on ISIS, it's always the same. Boston Marathon bombing, San Bernardino, and so many more. These images that look like they came from the 70s, 80s, maybe even the 60s. And they're trying to tell us this is new information in 2016. This is all deep conditioning, deep programming to accept lies that are transparent on the surface. And the reason the mainstream media gets away with it is because people are so trusting of the media. It's just like how little kids are taught to believe their parents no matter what. The Masons, the Zionists who run the media are exploiting this fact of life. They have the trust of the masses the same way parents have the trust of their children. Little kids don't expect their parents to lie to them and deceive them the same way people in the mainstream don't expect their media to do the same to them. But their media does. And you know what? Some parents in this world are terrible to their children. So people need to take off the blinders and stop seeing the world through rose-colored glasses and ways that make them feel, safer inside, more content. This information, it shouldn't scare you. Use it as knowledge, use it as awareness, power, and help spread the message so that the masses can come together and end this tyranny. That's my message. They also talk about a cab driver. I've been talking a lot about the movie Taxi Driver and how they're using coding from the movie Taxi Driver for a bigger event in the United States, one that seems to be targeting the 44th President Obama, as well as perhaps somebody running for president right now. Please check out my videos on that. All you have to do is click my videos tab and scroll through. A lot of content worth investigating. 3 suspects, 2 explosions, and a taxi driver. 3, 2, 1, like a countdown. Putting the pieces together. And just these images they give us, like these are supposed to have some impact. A woman that looks perfectly fine with a little blood on her hand, talking on her cell phone in the hand that's supposedly injured? Doesn't even make sense. I mean, if the hand's bloody, do you think she'd put it in the clean hand? This woman with her shirt rolled up, I mean, is something supposed to be wrong with you? How much are you getting paid for this photo op? Shameless. So then they try to tell us that there's also this Mormon boy who's been at the Boston Marathon bombing, the Paris attack, and now the Brussels attack. What are the odds of that? Just ask yourself, what do you think the odds of one person being at all 3 of those attacks are? We're talking about something like 1 in hundreds of millions, maybe 1 in billions. Improbable. Think about all the people in this world and how few of them were at any of these attacks. They're trying to tell us this one 19-year-old happened to be at all 3 of these spots on the day of. And we didn't hear about him at the Paris attack. They didn't say, oh, this boy was at the Boston Marathon bombing and the Paris attack, but they're bringing him out of nowhere to say he was at all 3. And this reminds me of how after Sandy Hook, they said that there was a man who was at the Aurora Theater shooting and also in close proximity to the Sandy Hook school shooting on the day of. And those attacks were also coordinated by the numbers. So this is part of an ongoing message. It's all part of the conditioning of getting people to believe and trust absolute, improbable bullshit. Part of the deeper agenda within these lies. They tell us his name was Mason Wells. Mason Wells. It's the Freemasons putting this on. Check this out. Third brush with terror. How the Daily Mail starts. That has gematria of 119. Familiar number. September 11th in most parts of the world was written 11/9. Many people who were awake right away came out and said Israel is directly connected to this. Even in the U.S. media, 60 Minutes covered a story saying that there were Israeli agents over here who came to film and document the attack. They were arrested by Secret Service and sent back to Israel, where they were free. This was put out on 60 Minutes, taunting the American audience. If people were over here from Israel who knew the attack was going to happen and were ready to document it on the day of, at the time of, that should have been a lot bigger story. That should have made a lot bigger waves. That tells Israel had foreknowledge. How can they still be our ally? How can we still give them billions of dollars per year? You know, these are the questions people overlook. And for all the Americans who hate Islam while giving Israel a pass, you know, it's time to wake up and start actually thinking instead of just believing and accepting what you're told and how you're supposed to behave. Anyhow, this 119 number, special number, Star of David, equals 119. All-seeing eye equals 119. These are symbols important to the Masons and Zionists that are on world currencies. They've been on the U.S. currency for more than a century. They predate Israel. Of course, Israel's flag is the Star of David. This man was at all three terror hoaxes. Notice the name Mason and Wells both have gematria of 17, also 26. 26, a special number. This attack came exactly 26 weeks after September 23rd, which was the start date of the French Revolution calendar in 2015, a date of much significance for a lot of history in the United States, in the Paris terror hoax, and even up to the present. I don't think it's any coincidence that this fell exactly 26 weeks later after September 23rd. Notice the doubles 26 coding within Mason Wells. Mason Wells also equals 34, like the number reported of dead initially, the number for murder. Also 52, the number 239 is the 52nd prime number, 23/9 for September 23rd. The United States currently 239 years old. All of this is part of the numerological synchronicities going on within this reporting, within these coordinated attacks. It also came on a date with 34 numerology, life lesson number, syncing up with the name Mason Wells. Notice Wells in gematria equals 71, the reflection of 17. Mason 62, the reflection of 26. American Mormon in English reduction equals 71, like Wells. They said he was a missionary. Missionary has gematria of 142, like terrorist. Remember the first major terror hoax that got worldwide mainstream attention, September 11th. That attack lasted 102 minutes, or an hour and 42, blamed on Al-Qaeda, which equals 102 in Jewish gematria. They say he was 19 years old, which has gematria of 41, connected to skull and bones, connected to the numerology of the date of the attack. September 11, 2001 was also a date with 41 numerology. Al-Qaeda equals 41 as well as 102. 19, the big way, also has gematria of 86, like pyramid, like symbol, like triangle. As I showed in my first video, the first headlines out blaming it on ISIS all had 86 gematria. More important numbers connected to bombings of the past, including Hiroshima, which happened on August 6th. They referred to him as an American Mormon missionary. Gematria of 123, like conspiracy. That's supposed to be him. Notice his image, also quite grainy, makes you wonder. They do have some clearer images of him, though. They say in the bombing, his Achilles tendon was ruptured. Here's why they said that, Truth Seeker. Achilles has the gematria of 33, the number of the hoax. Remember, here in the United States, our military, in their field manual, Rule 33-1, is the Psychological Operations Program, which is used against the American public. Rule 33-1. Of course, 42 equals Freemason. We talked about that. Achilles tendon has gematria of 60 and 69. 69 on top of the Royal Arch of Freemasonry. The word conspiracy has gematria of 60, 51, 60, and 123. Supposedly this is his mother and father. No doubt actors for part of the contrived story. Sure, all of these people are using actor agent names. The mother's name is supposedly Kimberly Wells. Gematria of 56, 65, 74. I should mention that ISIS equals 56. Masonic 74. Knights Templar equals 65. Remember, Knights Templar burned at the stake Friday the 13th, 1307 by King Philip. Kimberly in simple English gematria sums to 111. Anything that sums to 111 in simple English will always sum to 666. In English gematria, you just multiply by 6. Kimberly with the 666 coding. If you've never seen my video on 144, 223, and 666, you have to check that out. Very important. All of these numbers have relationships. Remember, this attack came on March 22nd, written 22/3. All of these numbers are interrelated through Revelation, the final book of the Bible. The father's name is Chad Wells, a name with 33 gematria as well as 42. Chad equals 16. This attack comes in 2016. Here they supposedly are, the sad parents of the Mormon missionary at all 3 attacks. You have to remember, the powers that be, they're laughing at us. They can't believe that we can't see through them. And this was true on September 11th, which was a massive hoax, by the numbers, completely transparent, blamed on a man supposedly living in a cave. I mean, just think about how far-fetched that sounds. A man in a cave coordinated an attack that defeated a nation that spends trillions of dollars on defense and intelligence. These people are getting more belly laughs than you can count. If you watch the interview, they call it a miracle from God that their son survived. God in Jewish gematria sums to 61. Remember, the date of the attack had 61 numerology, 3 plus 22 plus 20 plus 16. Miracle also has gematria of 61. So does the word church. Church, miracles, God. Think about the relationship. God in simple English gematria, also 26, like Mason, like Wells. God in English gematria sums to 156, which is just 26 times 6. Remember, 911 is the 156th prime number. They said the second explosion, the one that took place at the building with 223 gematria, happened at 9:11 a.m. Don't you see what they're doing, Truth Seeker? 4:11 Eastern Time. The word assassin in Jewish gematria is 4:11. They just want to put their numbers before our eyes. JFK shot from 411 Elm Street. That was the second bomb at 9/11. Second has a gematria of 33. A lot of the times these bombings, there's 2. Might be for the coding of that second right there. The Masons also believe in divide and conquer. 2 represents division. Think about the World Trade Centers. 2 buildings, 2 massive towers. They look like 11s in New York City skyline, which is the 11th state. Masons, order through chaos, divide and conquer. So here's these Mormon missionaries again. Name tags, clearer picture this time. Typically, missionaries do travel in pairs of 2 or more. They say his buddy that was with him was named Joseph Empey, which has gematria of 56. Again, ISIS equals 56. This was connected to the mother's name. Also in simple English gematria, his name sums to 137, which is the 33rd prime number. Another number that shows up a lot. His last name has gematria of 64, like Israel. Also Israel the small way. Another picture of the 2. Interesting picture. They say this man was the sponsor of the missionaries. He was there as well. His name was Richard Norby. What I notice about his name is Richard has gematria of 61, number we just talked about. And Norby has gematria of 74 like Masonic. Freemasonry, Mormonism, directly connected. At the beginning of the Mormon church, the leaders were dying by the numbers. Joseph Smith, the original founder of the church who tried to set it up in New York before Chicago, before it moved to Utah, he was killed in Illinois in the year 44. Remember, kill equals 44. Brigham Young would die 33 years later. No coincidence. Mormonism always operating by the same numbers. Here's more images from the attack. I mean, just look how stupid this looks. This guy's supposedly down and injured right here from this bomb, right? Do you see anything damaged around here? This guy's walking by like he doesn't even give a shit. He's probably like, what the fuck is this guy doing? You know? There'd be something else going on here. There'd be more people down. It's just so obviously transparent that these are photo ops, lies, deception, propaganda. I could decode even more the witnesses' names, like just right here, Paul Tucker. Paul equals 14, Tucker equals 33, put it together, 47, 33, 47, 74, numbers that show up again and again. Here's another woman, Karen Northshield. Sounds like a military operation. You know? Just crisis actors, made up names by the numbers. They're doing this emphasis on the black glove. I think this is just all subtle tributes to all sorts of propaganda they've put out, from O.J. Simpson to Michael Jackson. Dikembe Mutombo was supposedly at the airport weighing in. Dikembe Mutombo has gematria identical to Freemasonry. I saw another article on ESPN about another athlete with the exact same name gematria of 58 and 67 that was supposedly there. The Masons, they control a lot. They control media. They control governments. They control entertainment from sports to music. And they have a lot of agents who work for them. And all these people sell us out for money, for fame. Shame on you, Dikembe Mutombo. More headlines, mourning and wondering. Supposedly this woman is the first person identified as a victim. Mourning and wondering has the gematria of 113, 113. Also 239, remember, the United States currently 239 years old until July 4th, 74 or 47, depending on where you are. Talked about how this date connected to the beginning of the French Revolution calendar and how these attacks have been measured by it. No doubt it's coded into this headline. Again, mainstream, dishonest, green screen, Scottish, all 113 coding. They say her name was Adelma Marina Tapia Ruiz, which has gematria of 96, just like Freemason. Her first name, Adelma, equals 36. They say she was 36 years old. When you sum 1 through 36, it sums to 666. Marina also has gematria of 56, like Isis. Tapia, 47. Ruiz, 74. Look at all that is coded into this name, Truth Seeker. This is not a real deceased person. This is another actor agent. And again, we also live in this age where they can create imagery like this in photos that aren't even real people, which is an entire possibility. We have amazing technology. It can be used to deceive us. After that, they put out more headlines. 2 Americans confirmed dead. Americans confirmed dead. The 2 doesn't count in gematria. In gematria, it's just words into numbers. Americans confirmed dead has gematria of 103 and 112. 112 stands out because that is the alternate emergency dialing code. Here in the United States, if you dial 112 right now, you will be connected to 911. In Brussels, in Belgium, 112 is their emergency dialing code, as it is in other nations of Europe and worldwide. In Turkey, they had the bombing on January 12th, and their emergency vehicles all have 112 on the side. Kind of like how on September 11th, where we dial 911. Think about it. Anyway, 112 coded into this headline, Americans confirmed dead. The names of the victims are brothers here too, supposedly brothers killed, Sasha and Alexander Pinzowski. Sasha, the way it's spelled, gematria of 33. Go figure. Sasha Pinzowski, gematria of 79. Remember, like the location, the metro station. Other numbers coded within. 88 stands out, as well as 106. Poison, program, Mormon. These words all have 88 gematria. Trump equals 88. Right now there's headlines about how Donald Trump saw this coming. Anyone who thinks Donald Trump's not part of the show by the numbers needs to watch all the work I've done on him. He is another Masonic, Zionist, actor agent, shill fraud, participating in the agenda, and people really need to wake up. The sheeple, so easily taken advantage of. And I'm sorry for calling you sheeple. I'm here to turn you back into people. Anyhow, he also has the gematria of 106, the number of prophecy, the Zionist state of Israel, established on a date with 106 numerology, the 333rd day of the year in the year 47, by a 33-member vote by the United Nations. These are very special numbers to these people. They say that the brothers were killed while in a Delta line for Delta Airlines. Here's what you need to know. There's coding here for New York in this story as well as DC. New York has gematria of 39 as well as 111, which again sums to 666 in English gematria. This attack came 111 days after the San Bernardino hoax by the numbers. Something I have videos on that you can check out and again see the same exact coding. Notice it's also a span of 15 weeks and 6 days. A lot like 156. As I routinely say, the dates, the coding within the gematria, it often foreshadows what's next. And a lot is pointing to New York and DC. It's only a matter of time. Delta, the airline they were standing in, has the gematria of 42. What's interesting about 42 and 39 is that when you write them out, they both sum to 142 like terrorist. Remember the hour and 42 attack on 9/11 in New York City? The other brother's name is Alexander, which has gematria of 39. These brothers supposedly killed in the attack. They're the two confirmed. Alexander Pinzowski sums to 112, like the headline. Alexander the Big Way also equals 84, like United States of America. None of these victims are real. None of these names are real. They're all coded. It's all propaganda. It's all foreshadowing. And at the same time, I think they're also signatures, tributes by the Masons, speaking to each other in this coded language. You have to remember, I'm not inside the gang. I'm decoding from the outside, putting the pieces together over time. They've also shown this image a lot in recent days. They're saying there's a guy unknown that's at large. They're saying there's this guy that looks like Shock G that's at large. And they're saying there's the two brothers dead, as well as this man named Najim Bakraoui. Bakraoui, something going on here with the ooey thing. But anyway, this name Najim, more familiar name, numbers. Najim Bakraoui sums to 64 like Israel, like Zion, like Thelema. Bakraoui also has the gematria of 44 like kill. And Najim in simple English gematria sums to 47. More names made up for their numbers. Some recent reporting from CNN, can Europe stop the next attack? You know, they're saying they couldn't stop it in Paris. They saw all this coming in Belgium. They couldn't stop it there. There's been headlines in recent days about how ISIS is becoming harder to stop, harder to track, more widespread. This is just all fear-mongering boogeyman nonsense to get the people of the world to submit to these tyrants in government. Remember, the original definition of terrorism is government by intimidation. And that's exactly what they're doing with all of these attacks. Can Europe stop the next attack in gematria sums to 113? What do you know? I'm going to link all these posts. There's more I've decoded, but this video is already getting long. I got to get to the point. In the last video I put out, a lot of people caught this 33 that was written on the glass, and I missed it. It slipped right past my eyes, but they love to put this 33 before our eyes. In the video in the description link, the first video I made, if you fast forward to about 11 minutes 10 seconds and watch for the 15 seconds that follow, you'll see this 33 very clearly. The door's open in the shot, the 33 is even more clear. These people who do this, they're gangsters, and they leave their signatures everywhere. It's complete arrogance, and it's completely transparent once you learn to recognize it. So now, if you're still with me, this is important. In Belgium, on December 13th, 2011, they said there was a murder-suicide attack blamed on Islamic extremism. They said the attacker was 33-year-old Noordine Amrani. From December 13th, 2011 to March 22nd, 2016 is exactly 223 weeks. This is just like how Lincoln nearly assassinated 223 weeks before he was actually shot. And get this, where he was almost assassinated, Willard Hotel has identical gematria to Ford's Theater where he was shot. Both ways, both words, 58 the small way, 139 the big way. Freemasonry equals 58 the small way, 139 the big way. Freemasons have been running the show for centuries by this same numerical code. Back then, the agenda was establishing the central bank. Now it's spreading fear, war, and financing the central bank. We have to stop this system. It can be stopped if this knowledge is spread. Imagine if 1 million people saw this video, felt as passionate about it as me, are committed to stopping it, and met in Washington, D.C. with demands of shutting this down, not another dollar for Israel, not another dollar for war, not another dollar for propaganda against Islamic extremism, none of it. We could stop it. We could stop it the day we did that. That's what I do these videos for. All of you who write here that I do this for views, for attention, for money, you're wrong. I've never made $1 off this. I've lost a lot of money. I've been arrested. I've been terrorized by my own police department since I started doing this work. Why? Because the police are owned and operated by this same Masonic Zionist cartel. Police equals 33. Police have always been here for the rich, wealthy industrialists, never for the people. They're here to maintain the Masonic Zionist order. Anyway, this attack, the 33-year-old, it happened in the Wallonia region of Belgium. Wallonia, gematria of 33, Belgium 33, 33-year-old. 33 on the glass, they probably had it there too. The attack took place at 12:33. You see what's going on? I mean, I don't know how people come to my channel and say this is the dumbest shit they've ever seen. It happens every time. I get 1,000 comments like that every time, and I just think, what's wrong with these people? If you don't understand gematria, also in the description I have the how-to gematria video. You can learn these skills, you can apply them, you can make the same calculations I'm making. It's mathematics, there's no way to manipulate it. The name Noordine Amrani, interesting. Noordine has gematria of 43 like massacre. The big way, 79, also like murder, like massacre, a number significant to this most recent attack. ISIS wasn't something they started talking about until 2013, but his name did have the 56 coding, perhaps future foreshadowing for the ISIS propaganda to come. It happened in the city of Liege, which has gematria of 38, like death. This is a story of mass death. The date of the attack, 56 numerology. Numbers corresponding with his name. Happened in St. Lambert Square. The 7189. Numbers we've seen decoded in this most recent attack. Here, Truth Seeker. I did this in the first video, but I want to show it again real quick. This is the 2004 presidential election. Tim Russert interviews George W. Bush and John Kerry, who are both former members of Skull and Bones. They were the two men running for president at the time. Just listen to this. Talk about the death of Tim Russert, which followed shortly after.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
wild.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the record.
Number 322?
First of all, he's not the nominee. And, look, I look
Are
forward.
you prepared to lose?
No, I'm not going to lose.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322, secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets, Tim, but one thing is not a secret. I disagree with this president's direction that he's taking the country. We can do a better job, and I intend to do it.
And we'll be watching. Be safe on the campaign trail. John Kerry, thanks for joining us. And we'll be right back.
So, Truth Seeker, what I want you to think about is how John Kerry in 2013 is the man who went before the U.S. public and started beating the war drum, saying how we needed to attack Syria, possibly go back to Iraq, because it was the source of all this Islamic extremism. It felt like we were going to go to another war the way the mainstream media was carrying it at the time. That was late summer, early fall 2013. Then something that I'd never seen before in my life, they said that the public didn't support the war, it wasn't going to happen. But almost instantaneously, we started getting mass propaganda about ISIS and it being traced back to Syria. Now remember, or I shouldn't say remember, if you've never seen the show 24, a show that rolled out about terrorism right after September 11th, something that I saw through as an 18-year-old, I said, look at this, September 11th propaganda and now a hit show on Fox about terrorism. In season 6 of that show, there's supposed to be a rich man from Syria named al-Assad who's responsible for terrorism. Now in Syria, there's a leader, al-Assad, who's born on September 11th, that they blame for so much of this Islamic extremism. This is predictive programming. These are Masonic Zionist agents worldwide selling us out. I guarantee you al-Assad is in the game. Everything on the TV, everything in the media is just part of the propaganda. Anyhow, Tim Russert, who just interviewed George W. Bush, John Kerry, I want to show you this. His death came June 13th, 2008. He did the interview 4 years earlier. Look at this reporting, Truth Seeker. He was supposedly picked up by the emergency medical team at 144, a number that has to do with death and killing. As I said, I have a video on 144, 223, and 666. He was pronounced dead at 2:23 p.m. That is 39 minutes later. Remember, the synagogue of Satan, the false Jews, equals 223. Jews go by the 39 books in the Old Testament. Notice also that he was 58 years old. Freemasonry equals 58. Do you think this is any coincidence? I cannot tell you for sure if Tim Russert really died or if this is another hoax by the numbers, and when they put that 322 interview, that was all part of laughing in the American public's face, saying, look, people, your two candidates, they're part of this Masonic order for elite rich kids. To me, that seems actually more likely, because that's what they typically do. Put obvious stuff in front of our face and laugh at us. The date he died, a date with 47 numerology, a number that connects to president. He did that interview when they were both running for president. One last point. March 22nd, the date of this attack, it was the date of a full moon. And as I've explained since the beginning, there's more to the coordinating of these attacks than just numbers. The numbers are very crucial, but so is astrology, so is the moon, so is history. So much is synced up, so much is mapped out. When enough dots line up, that's when they pick their attacks. You know, like we talked about, this March 22nd had the numerology of 41, which connects to skull and bones, one of several alignments for the date. Also the full moon. Brother Berg, someone who learned from my channel, he pointed out to me that Isis is known as the goddess of health, marriage, and wisdom. This attack's blamed on Isis on March 22nd. Look at what goddess of health, marriage, and wisdom sums to. 322 on March 22nd. How fitting. And again, ISIS, also used as an acronym for Israeli Secret Mossad, Israeli Secret Intelligence Service, which is a reference to Mossad, Israel's version of the CIA. ISIS, a reference to Israel. Remember, after September 11th, it was Ehud Barak, the former prime minister and defense minister of Israel, who went on Western media and said the United States needed to declare a war on terrorism and radical Islamic extremists. This is all part of the post-World War II agenda, part of the Israel agenda, part of the post-9/11 agenda. This is agendas stacking on top of each other, growing by the decade, growing throughout the century, because it has not been stopped. It must be stopped. It can be stopped. It's transparent. These people's secrets are now out in the open. It's a matter of the masses getting out the truth, organizing, coming together, and truly doing what needs to be done. That's what I'm going to start working at here in the coming weeks. I'm working on my book. I need to get that out. This book will really help spread the knowledge if people help it spread. Next, we need to put together the movement. We need to show up in the capitals of all these Western governments who participate in this Israeli-sponsored terrorism. It needs to be ended. Belgium, one last point. Belgium, the battleground of Europe, where the greatest loss of life happened in World War I and World War II. This propaganda will be used to lead us into World War III. Belgium is also where the European Union is located, and NATO, the Western mercenaries, used for much wrongdoing in this world. So many of people have pointed out that what ISIS is using looks like NATO-funded goods, from vehicles to weapons. Inside job, false flag, whatever you want to call it, that's what's being done by the numbers. So we've pretty much covered it all, Truth Seeker. The terror in Belgium, it's not blamed. It shouldn't be blamed on Islamic extremism. It should be blamed on the powers that be, the Masons, the Zionists, the tyrants at the top. And for all of you who come here and say, I'm making excuses for radical Islam, you guys need to become more enlightened and learn more about the world. Most Muslims are great people, very kind people, people who would take good care of you if you were in need. In Islam, you are taught to bring a stranger into your home and help them. For most of us Westerners, if we went to Saudi Arabia, these Islamic nations, the people would take care of us no matter what. That said, there is a small group of Islamic extremists who really do carry out terror attacks. It does happen, but it's very rare. It's just like how Christians blow up abortion clinics. It's rare, but it happens. These things do exist, and the reason they exist is because people are born into this world with all these lies, with all this propaganda, and a very rare minority gets sucked in. But the more of this propaganda that goes on, the more of this hate that's bred, the more commonplace it will become. And that's what the powers that be want. They want more Christian extremists. They want more Islamic extremists so they can use them as their boogeyman, as part of their ongoing, purposefully waged terror. All right, Truth Seeker. Thanks for watching. Until next time.